Hello and welcome to CIO News. I am Khushbu Soni, the founder and chief editor at CIO News. This is a recorded session and will be available on our website, that is cionews.co.in, and our CIO News LinkedIn as well as YouTube channel. It will also be available on Sony Pictures social handles. It is my pleasure to be invited on the sets of CXO Sony Pictures studio and having this conversation with my guest, Raj Mohan Srinivasan, the Chief Information Officer at Sony Pictures. Raj, thank you so much for inviting me here. A quick introduction. I know you need no introduction, but I would want to take a few seconds to quickly introduce you. Raj has 30 plus years of rich experience in the industry. He has been working with various brands such as IBM, Oracle. He's been an entrepreneur as well, and now has been working with Sony Pictures. Raj has been, helping Sony Pictures in designing their entire digital transformation journey, helping them take data-driven decisions, helping them set up their governance model, and working with the entire team to take through the transformation journey. Fantastic work, Raj.
Thank you.
And congratulations, first of all, for receiving the award at the Tata Communications CIO Conclave Excellence Awards 2022.
That's for my entire team.
So Raj, to begin with, I wanted to put across the first question. What has been the journey like in Sony Pictures in terms of technology, and what are your key areas of focus that you've been driving in the last years?
Even before starting off with the journey with Sony Pictures, I would love to start with the very DNA of this industry. What fascinates me, like you said, I'm in this industry this is my 34th year.
Yeah.
Now, we all started our career with those punch cards and, with those good old mainframe. The beauty of this industry, every 3 years, it becomes like a child. It is born new with some new fresh ideas and new challenges. That's how it makes all of us, even though we grow old, makes us young at heart. The beauty of this industry is such. That's the reason why I even came back to Sony Pictures. My journey actually with media entertainment started way back in 2008. Even though I was with IBM and I was with Oracle, and I'd been an entrepreneur myself, I brought in the first movie on demand, a content on demand to this part of the world. I launched the way back in 2008 content on demand, movie on demand with some 55 Satyajit Ray movies. This was with it was called Anando Movies, with the star Anando. We did it. Then we wanted to pilot with all the star South channels as well. Now, if you say digital marketing, people they won't even blink their eyes. In 2008, when I talked about digital marketing, that you can make some ad revenue out of some digital media, it was a surprise, and nobody would. So what I left in 2008, I could fulfill in 2020 when I met NP Singh, who's my CEO. He said, Raj, what those so-called unfulfilled dreams, would you be able to recreate it in our 3.0 avatar? I think that was the third, or rather, the 3 years new baby to be born. That was a motivation for me to take this up in 2020. That's how I've gotten to Sony Pictures as the CIO.
Fantastic. So Raj, talking about the industry trends from the technology per se, how has the transformation helped the industry? Also, how do you see the way forward, especially from the technology per se?
Sure. Like I said, the first ever when we all started our the computation journey, way back in, I would say, 88, when I was doing my master's, and then I had to do my summer internship with one of the leading engineering industry. We used to do those punch cards, right? Now, it used to get processed with the mainframe. In those days, I think it was S390 or, what is surprising? The power of that is what we all, today what you have in your mobile phones, right? The smartphones. The power of your smartphones used to be it may not be an exaggeration to say that, the miniaturization has come to that far. Now, the reason why I'm saying this, from the time such an evolution happened, right? this is making a lot of art of possible, making into more flexible things.
Yeah.
For instance, almost like 30 years back, right? I even published an article in American Association of Artificial Intelligence, AAAI, about how AI, artificial intelligence, can solve industrial problems. That was my thesis paper, which I submitted way back in 1990, 89, 90. Not that, the current trend of, let's say, generative AI and, those applications were even in the research labs in those days.
Right.
Why it could not scale was because of the compute or the ability to crunch these, the advancement which has happened in the compute, storage, networking, the speed at which these data flow, all that could not, right? Now, I'm not saying that, we've not evolved from that standpoint, but what I'm trying to say is that the agility with which the teams or the generations, right? The X generation like us or, the baby boomers, the Gen Z, it gives a very exciting thing for all of us to play as if they were born yesterday.
Yeah.
That's an interesting part about this industry. And that's one of the reasons why I'm continuing to, keep reinvigorating myself as if I'm just out of the post-graduation and, I'm still looking at it as another summer internship project. And I would like to keep looking at what those upcoming trends are. Now, you asked another question. Where do I see this going, right? It's going to be very interesting. I think there are, people talk about generative AI, and there are so many new, the blockchain is here to stay. This digital currency that we are talking about is here to stay. Now, all these are, you can find in the Google or in your own CIO news, I'm sure you will have tons and tons of blogs. So if I keep saying the same thing, it's not going to be interesting. So what I'm going to say is that how this is going to evolve in the next 3 years. And rather, I would want this to evolve. There is also a personal, perspective on how I would like this industry to evolve.
Yeah.
I definitely feel the advancements, be it your generative AI or blockchain, and I'm sure they're going to bring in a lot more breakthrough, lot more innovation, lot more, I would say, transformative things that can touch every aspects of our life, right? Look at the COVID times, right? How digital really came in handy, right? So those are all the very, very positive things. On another day, I was just reading India being India, right? Everybody thought, will UPI click? See where it is, right? Now, we always underestimated the rural population and their adoption of digital or tech. But this is the living proof, right? Our very inherent nature of inquisitiveness as an Indians, right? We always try to learn, right? Whether it's so that's going to probably drive important things.
Yeah.
I read an article where they talked about this generative AI being tried it out on a rural where it helps in, connotating whichever way they would like to understand in the native language. This has got a very good adoption, right? So my humble submission is that use these disruptive technologies for such long-term social impacting needs. Look at these disruptions for breaking some of those old legacies where, knowledge is power.
Yeah.
People literally took it in that sense.
Yeah.
They held it close to their heart and they never let it get passed to the next generation, right? So go there, get those generative AI to simulate all these, make it available to the human models. That's welcome. But don't use that to curtail the younger generation's creativity. I also read that the same generative AI is being used for younger creative talents. That's great. Now you curtail the current generative, AI for the creative younger minds. 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line, what are you going to do? So I think there has to be a balance. There has to be an ethical angle to it. Maybe not all the CIOs would agree to what I'm saying, but I think, that's my perspective.
Absolutely.
That's how I would like to see.
Absolutely. I think very rightly put, it is very important to have the right balance because, of course, the acceptance on the technology with all the advancements that are happening, there is still a human touch required
Absolutely.
to everything that we've been doing. So yes, a balance is the right way, Raj. Raj, if we talk about Sony Pictures from a technology per se, what is the way forward?
Okay, I think, before I talk about the way forward, I would have to give you the genesis of what we've done in the last 3 years, right?
That'll be fantastic.
So this is our 28th year in the media and entertainment industry. Even though I've joined in the last 3 years, I can definitely take claim of the entire 28 years, because that's the way this company works, right? It makes you belong to that entire journey. So we call this in 3 avatars, right? When I joined in 2020, my CEO is to call that as 2.0, right? The first version was more for very niche, let's say in the Hindi-speaking market and those related content. And then the 2.0 was for widespreading, like, mass market and mass reach and so on. Then I asked, what's this 3.0 that you're talking about? Like every other media, better reach, better, that's all given. But he gave a very interesting perspective. He said, Raj, I would like this to be digitally transformed business model. What he meant, I'm a content company. At my heart, in my DNA, I'm a content company. When I evolve 3 years from now, how can I have this core DNA or the core competency better delivered to my end consumer with that experience, okay, which are completely driven by digital disruption. So that was the genesis for our current digital transformation. One of the reasons why CIO did consider us is also from that perspective. So we did come up with, I'm a very back to basics kind of a guy. Even if you want to take it to the next heartbeat growth, the answers you will find it the basics, right? So we said that digital transformation is more about business than about digital, right? So we said, let's build our digital priorities. What's going to help my business growth, my top line?
Right.
Let's focus on all those which is going to help my bottom line, which is operational productivity, operational efficiency, and so on. These two are my primary drivers. And then for me to enable these top line and bottom line, I need to have this discipline or mindset of having an organization which is completely data-driven decision making.
Correct.
I don't want anything to be based on, of course, hunches are very important, but how do you back up with the data insights, right? Then the last, governance, right? When you put a lot of data on cloud, a lot of emphasis on data, the protection, the governance, the standards also becomes important. So we did come up with some 12 initiatives. I call them as foundational capabilities. In the last 3 years, touch wood, I don't know where there's wood. So, we had concluded these 12 initiatives successfully. I call this as a foundational capabilities. And the real fun is going to start from here. Okay. So we want to see, of course, the very next step will be for having incremental capabilities, which is to harness what these foundational capabilities have done so far to get better improvements on my continuous process improvement and so on. And the big part is the exponential part, where we want to, how we are going to harness the exponential capabilities of the technologies. We've also constituted some COEs, Center of Excellence. We have set up an automation COE, which is more like for the incremental benefits. Analytics COE to strengthen my data-driven decision making. And then I've also set up on the emerging tech, like the smart contracts and AI/ML, okay? And the fourth one is on the metaverse, right? Media and metaverse, intuitively you link it together. So we are also trying to play big on the metaverse area. We have done some 2-3 use cases already. We have put in some of our sports property onto a verse version. And we are also now trying to automate some of our premium channel content being available on metaverse and trying to see how one could lead to the other. So interesting times, interesting way, and keeps me happy. That's more important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. My next question is, what percentage of work you think will move digital in the coming years?
See,
Approximately.
I mean, it's a very, I will say, context-specific question. But if you want to have an overall perspective, I would think most of those mundane things should be, right?
Absolutely.
Now, 80-90% should be. Now, let's come to the next part, where it's going to be, like I said, the data-driven decision making, make it 60-70%.
Yeah.
Make these data points available so that the teams can take the best judgment in terms of how they want to take it to a meaningful outcome.
Right.
Maybe I would say 60-70%, 50-60%. Depends on the context. The last part, where there's a lot of disruptive things are there, I don't think there's any percentage because it's new.
Yeah.
It's a white space, right? So maybe you'll be starting with a 0%, right? So you're defining a new model, you're creating a new business, you're creating a new opportunities and so on. So I feel that's a white space.
Right.
So you start with zero base and you grow wherever you want.
Great, fantastic. My one last question, Raj. Any best practices, suggestions that you would like to give to our viewers, CIO viewers, and the next CIOs in the industry?
Sure. Like I said, I think if I have to talk about my own contemporaries of, the 30 plus in the industries who've been in the CIO, I'm pretty sure they would have also gone through multiple generations. Like I always tell this to my kids as well. Okay, when I say kids, they are no longer kids, they are 25 and 23. I used to tell them, we as a generation, we've gone through 3 generations, 3 lives in one. We've seen the old generation, which was on that old telephones and, with this tring phones. And then we've now seen the high-end versions, right? Even as a generation, right? The old, the grandmothers, their values to, how we adapt to the current Gen Z kids and, rubbing shoulders with them on their WhatsApp and Instagram. So I think, we've seen this, right? To those seasoned CIOs, I think, I'm pretty sure I would like to learn from them as well. I'm sure they will have similar stories. Now, if I were to just reflect on the next gen CIOs who are now getting in, I would definitely leave, I don't want to call it an advice, because advice, this generation, whether you call it Gen Z or millennium kids, whatever, it's not advice, right? So I don't want to. So as a best practice, I would probably suggest 2 things. One, be open, right? In the sense, you come up with a great idea, right? Test it out till it's hilt, okay? And there will be a moment where you need to get to the moments of truth, whether this is going to be a profitable and is it going to make a business sense? Mm-hmm. Is it an opportunity or it's a perceived opportunity, right? Keep your focus on that, right? There will be a time where the technology overwhelms your business insights, right? Mm-hmm. So keep your focus balanced on that. That's one. Now the second one that I'm going to say, it might look contradictory. Having decided that this is the code that you're going to stay focused, right? It's even though it might seem like contradictory, it is not. Mm-hmm. Having chosen that, having validated, and it makes sense, just go for it. Just don't stop it. I used to give this story to my kids. Probably, I always love to give it with a small story so that, it reaches the mass as well. I believe there used to be a saint who said to a boy, you want to find a fortune? Okay, I'll tell you to find a fortune. Go to the seashore, keep looking for those pebbles, right? One of the pebble is the most precious stone in the world. So the child asks, how do I differentiate? He says, just take it, keep it on your chin, right? This will be slightly hotter than the normal stones. Okay? The kid goes to the shore, keeps testing. After a while, it feels that it knows the actual, what would be the hotter thing. It keeps saying, okay, I know. And he picks up one and he throws it. Mm-hmm. Then he picks up the next one, he feels that was more hotter. So the moral is that many times what the known facts may actually blind you in actually spotting the big, huge opportunity that you're been wanting to get for. It's in my own personal experience I'm saying, stay focused.
Yeah.
You may be finding that fortune, it may be very next, very near. Stay focused and you'll hit it.
Fantastic. Great conversation with you, Raj. Thank you so much for all the candid responses.
Thank you.
I'm sure there is a lot of key takeaways for our viewers from this interaction. Thank you so much for,
Thanks for coming.
inviting me.
Thank you. It's our pleasure.
Thank you.